The full story of Samson and Delilah, the strong man and the betrayal of love. Long ago, during a dark time in Israel's history, the people had turned away from God. Because of their disobedience, God allowed their enemies, the Philistines, to rule over them for 40 years. But even in their suffering, God had a plan to raise a man who would begin to free Israel from their oppressors. The birth of a chosen one. In a small town called Zorah lived a man named Manoah and his wife. They were a kind couple but had no children. One day, an angel of the Lord appeared to Manoah's wife and said, "You will conceive and give birth to a son. He will be dedicated to God from birth and will begin to deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines." The angel told her that the boy must never drink wine or cut his hair, for he would be a Nazirite, a person set apart to serve God. True to the angel's promise, she gave birth to a boy and named him Samson, meaning sunlight. The Lord blessed Samson as he grew, and the Spirit of God began to stir within him, the strength of Samson. As a man, Samson was unlike anyone else. His strength was supernatural. He once tore a lion apart with his bare hands, and later he killed 1,000 Philistines with only the jawbone of a donkey. But Samson had a weakness: his heart. He often followed his desires instead of God's direction. Samson fell in love with a Philistine woman from Timnah, even though his parents warned him not to. Later he also spent time with a woman in Gaza, and then his heart was captured again, this time by a woman named Delilah. Samson meets Delilah. Delilah lived in the valley of Sorek. She was beautiful, clever, and charming. Samson loved her deeply, and he often visited her. But the Philistine rulers saw this as their chance. They went to Delilah and said, "See if you can find out where his great strength lies, and how we can overpower him. If you succeed, each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." Tempted by the promise of wealth, Delilah agreed. That night she began her plan. As Samson rested his head on her lap, she spoke softly. "Samson, my love, tell me where your great strength comes from. How could you be tied up and subdued?" Samson, knowing she might betray him, decided to play along. "If they tie me with 7 fresh bowstrings that have not been dried, I'll become as weak as any other man," he said. Delilah waited until Samson fell asleep. Then she tied him with 7 bowstrings and called out, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you!" But Samson broke the cords as if they were burned thread. The secret was still safe: the repeated deception. Delilah pouted and accused him. "You made a fool of me. You lied to me. Tell me how you can be tied." Samson teased again. "If they tie me securely with new ropes that have never been used, I'll become weak." Once more she tried, and once more Samson snapped the ropes effortlessly. Delilah pressed again. "You're making fun of me. Tell me the truth this time." Samson smiled and said, "If you weave the 7 locks of my hair into the fabric on the loom and tighten it with the pin, I'll become weak." She did exactly that while he slept. But when she cried out again, Samson woke and walked away, pulling everything loose. Now Delilah was furious. Day after day, she pressed him with her words, her tone turning from sweet to desperate. She nagged him constantly, until Samson's spirit was vexed to death. Finally, exhausted and vulnerable, he told her the truth. "No razor has ever touched my head," he confessed. "If my hair is cut, I will lose my strength. It is the sign of my vow to God." The betrayal. Delilah knew he had finally told the truth. She sent word to the Philistine rulers, "Come back once more. He has told me everything." That night, as Samson lay asleep on her lap, she signaled to a man who came quietly and cut off the 7 locks of his hair. As the last strand fell, the Spirit of God departed from Samson. Delilah called again, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He awoke, thinking he could shake himself free as before. But this time, he was powerless. His strength was gone. The Philistines seized him, gouged out his eyes, and took him to Gaza. They chained him and forced him to grind grain in prison, the once great warrior, now a broken man. But as time passed, his hair began to grow again, the final act of strength. Months later, the Philistines gathered in their grand temple to celebrate their victory and to worship their god, Dagon. They brought Samson out to entertain them, blind, weakened, humiliated. They laughed and mocked him, saying, "Our God has delivered our enemy into our hands." A young boy led Samson to the center of the temple, where two great pillars held up the roof. Samson asked the boy softly, "Let me rest against the pillars that support the temple." Then Samson prayed, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more, that I may pay back the Philistines for my eyes." With all his might, Samson pushed against the pillars. The temple began to shake. The floor cracked. The roof collapsed, killing the Philistine rulers and thousands of people inside. Samson died that day, but in his death, he defeated more of his enemies than he had during his life. His family later came to retrieve his body, and they buried him between Zorah and Eshtaol, where his story began. Lessons from Samson and Delilah. True strength comes from God, not ourselves. Love without wisdom can lead to destruction. Temptation often comes disguised as beauty and affection. Even when we fail, God can use us for His purpose. Our mistakes don't erase God's mercy. Redemption is always possible. Bible reference, Judges 13:16, Old Testament. This story can be found in the book of Judges, which records the rise and fall of Samson, one of Israel's most powerful yet tragic heroes. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and share it with others who love powerful Bible tales.